In March 2005, Garry Kasparov shocked the world by retiring. He stepped away while still ranked number 1, after an incredible reign that lasted 22 years. Up to that point, the chess throne had been remarkably stable. Since the ELO rating system was introduced, only 4 players had ever held the top spot. But with Kasparov gone, everything changed. A power vacuum opened at the very top, and what followed was unlike anything chess had seen before. A chaotic, cutthroat struggle where multiple super grandmasters battled fiercely for the crown of world number 1. From Topalov's fiery rise, to Anand's steady dominance, to Ivanchuk's flashes of brilliance, and finally, the dramatic arrival of a teenage prodigy named Magnus Carlsen. These years were nothing less than a modern Game of Thrones played on 64 squares. And in the end, it was Carlsen who emerged victorious, laying the foundation for an era of dominance that still echoes today. So, what really happened in those turbulent years? Let's find out. When Garry Kasparov announced his retirement in 2005, he still towered at the top of the rating list with an astonishing 2,812 ELO. Behind him stood Viswanathan Anand, Veselin Topalov, and Peter Leko. Vladimir Kramnik, meanwhile, was struggling with form, having slipped down to 2,753, far from his usual standards. This meant the real battle for the next world number 1 began between Anand and Topalov. Kasparov's name would remain on the list until April 2006, and by then, whichever of Anand or Topalov stood higher would officially inherit the throne. For much of 2005, it was Anand who held a razor-thin edge. In October 2005, the rating list showed Anand ahead of Topalov by just 6 ELO points, 2,788 to 2,782. But then came the San Luis World Championship Tournament in October 2005. Topalov produced one of the most dominant performances in modern chess history. He demolished the field with 10 out of 14, unbeaten, and gained a staggering 19 ELO points. Anand also had a strong showing, gaining 4 ELO himself, but Topalov's sheer brutality over the board catapulted him past Anand. By January 2006, the Bulgarian had become the clear frontrunner. Anand had only 3 months left to try to overtake him before Kasparov's name disappeared from the list. He struck back by winning Chorus 2006 in Vik on Z with Topalov, gaining 11 ELO, but that was not enough. And so, in April 2006, when Kasparov was finally removed from the rating list, Veselin Topalov officially became the first new world number 1 of the post-Kasparov era. It had been a neck-and-neck fight with Anand, but Topalov prevailed. The rest of 2006 belonged to him. Topalov stayed firmly at number 1, while Anand slipped down to 2,779 after a poor Olympiad performance. Meanwhile, far away from the spotlight, Vladimir Kramnik was quietly recovering his form. From a low of 2,739 in October 2005, he climbed back to 2,766 by January 2007, preparing himself for a comeback. By the end of 2006, Veselin Topalov's reign was already starting to crack. After losing the controversial World Championship match against Vladimir Kramnik, A match full of controversies that you can watch in detail in the video linked in the description. Topalov's momentum collapsed. He also stumbled badly at the Ascent tournament in the Netherlands, losing a hefty 30 ELO points in just a few months. Even so, he managed to cling to the #1 spot, but just barely. By early 2007, Topalov was only 4 ELO ahead of Viswanathan Anand, with Kramnik closing in as world #3, just 17 points behind. And then everything changed. From January 2007, the peak era of Viswanathan Anand began. He stormed through the Linares Super Tournament, famously beating the young Magnus Carlsen twice in the same event, and finally dethroned Topalov. In the April 2007 rating list, Anand officially became world #1. Meanwhile, a familiar new face began creeping into the elite. The 16-year-old Magnus Carlsen had climbed to world #22 with 2,693 ELO. Still far away from the throne, but already knocking on the door. Anand only grew stronger as the year went on. He won the 2007 World Championship in Mexico, cementing his grip at the very top. Meanwhile, the great Veselin Topalov, in one of the best stretches of his career, surged forward with an incredible 57 ELO points gained in 6 months, thanks to dominant victories in Cuba, Montreal, and Ukraine. By October 2007, Topalov was world #2, only a few steps behind Anand, with Kramnik close behind at 2,785. The start of 2008 tightened the race even further. By January, Kramnik caught up with Anand at 2,799, riding high after winning the Tall Memorial and Dortmund Sparkassen Cup. At the same time, Magnus Carlsen had already reached world #13, with 2,733 ELO. The prodigy was rising fast. In April 2008, Anand reclaimed the #1 spot after Kramnik stumbled at chorus. Meanwhile, Carlsen broke into the world's top 5, with Levon Aronian not far behind at #6. Then came another twist. In July 2008, Alexander Morozevich rocketed to world #2, thanks to a powerful tournament win in Bosnia. Suddenly, the top of the chess world looked like a traffic jam. Anand, Kramnik, Topalov, Topalov, Carlsen, and Morozevich were all within striking distance. One bad tournament could cost any of them their place at the top. And that's exactly what happened. At the Bilbao Masters Final 2008, Anand had a forgettable performance, drawing all of his games. He slipped down to world #5, first time since 15 years that he had slipped to #5, while Topalov and Carlsen both made progress. By this point, the writing was on the wall. Magnus Carlsen was fully in the mix. With just a few more strong tournaments, the teenager was poised to become the youngest world #1 in history. In the January 2009 rating list, Anand regained some ground after defeating Kramnik in their 2008 World Championship match, climbing back to #2. But Topalov still held on to #1, narrowly, while Magnus was already at #4, circling ever closer to the throne. The battle for #1 was becoming more chaotic than ever, and the stage was set for the teenager from Norway to make history. "2009 was the year of Veselin Topalov. He held on to the #1 spot from start to finish. A strong victory in Nanjing and a steady performance at the Olympiad kept him firmly above the 2,800 barrier. Behind him, Viswanathan Anand was stuck in second place all year. But in late 2009, a 19-year-old Magnus Carlsen produced the performance that shook the chess world. At the Nanjing Pearl Spring Tournament, he went on a rampage, scoring a stunning 3002 performance rating, gaining 29 ELO points and smashing through the 2800 mark for the first time. It was the moment Magnus truly announced himself as a generational talent. In January 2010, Carlsen officially became the world #1 for the very first time, after an excellent tall memorial that earned him 14 ELO. Many believe this was it, the rating wars were over. Magnus would simply dominate for years to come. But chess history had other plans. For most of 2010, Magnus was brilliant. He won chorus in Vaikanzai in the King's Tournament, pushing his rating to a then-record 2,826, with a commanding 23-point lead. It looked unstoppable. Then came the crash. In September and October, Magnus suffered one of the worst patches of his career. At the Chess Olympiad, he lost to Badr Jabava, Michael Adams, and Shugurov, dropping 15 ELO. At the Bilbao Masters, he lost again, this time to Anand and Kramnik, bleeding another 9 points. Suddenly, Magnus had slipped back to #2. Anand reclaimed the top spot, and right behind them, Levon Aronian was closing in, just 1 ELO point behind Magnus. By late 2010, the rating race had turned into a three-way battle. Anand, Carlsen, and Aronian. Magnus struck back on the next list, overtaking Anand. But Anand wasn't ready to give up. At a press conference, he boldly declared that he would play more tournaments to fight for his crown. And he delivered. With a strong result at Tata Steel 2011, won by Hikaru Nakamura, Anand retook #1 in the March list. At the same time, Aronian and Carlsen also made gains, sitting at 2,808 and 2,815 ELO respectively. The throne was changing hands almost every few months. Finally, in July 2011, Carlsen surged past Anand once more. And from that moment onwards, he never looked back. To this day, Magnus has never dropped to #2 again, despite brief threats from Fabiano Caruana, Shakhriyar Mamedyarov, and even Kramnik. His dominance became absolute. Some even argue he has surpassed Kasparov himself as the greatest of all time. For the others, the golden age slowly faded. Anand and Topalov had quieter years afterward, though both briefly touched personal rating peaks in 2015. Kramnik came close to overtaking Magnus in 2017, hitting 2,811, but it wasn't to be. As for Levon Aronian, he never quite reached the throne, but did achieve an astonishing 2,830 ELO, the fourth highest rating in chess history. The 2005 to 2011 rating wars were wild, unpredictable, and unlike anything before or since. Since July 2011, the throne has been firmly in Carlsen's hands. Perhaps the only way we'll see such chaos again is the day Magnus Carlsen finally steps down,